and welcome to Sequence Break 14, the podcast all about Final Fantasy XIV. I'm your host this week, Yelta, and with me is Calera.
Hi!
Hi! Also is with us is Orphan.
Yama, 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 yama.
I don't even know what
Yama,
that is.
yama, yama. Have you ever watched Police Academy?
I was maybe 4. I don't know.
What the? What the part?
I see my problem. I'll go watch it this weekend.
Whatever. Just move on.
Just move along. Alright. I'm older tthan you. Rubicon's here with us too. Hey, Ruby.
What's up? I don't have anything crazy to say.
Alright.
That was real crazy, man.
It's just wackiness coming out of my pores.
Oh my gosh. Well, Frey's not here right now, but I think he might join us later. We'll see what happens. This week we are going to be discussing role players in Final Fantasy: A Realm Reborn. To help us out, we've got with us 2 special guests. We have Nell. I already forgot how to say it. Hello, Celeste. See, I stressed about it, and then I can't say it. Hello, Nell. How are you?
It's time for some educational discipline.
Also with us is Luna. Hello.
I'm a guy.
Luna's a guy.
No, you're ruining my immersion. My immersion is ruined.
Picture a pair of sunglasses and deal with it.
You know, I was thinking like, okay, boobs, and like, how much would they weigh on my mobile boob weighing app?
You're still stuck on that boob weighing app, aren't you?
Dude, I got messages telling people telling me that is an awesome idea. Women out there want this program. I tell you, they want them. Men too, I bet.
I would just be disappointed at how light mine are, and then I'd cry.
The sad part is that as soon as you would have your back turned, people use it to weight in like their ball sacks.
Uh-huh. That would be next. That would be like for another 99 cents, we'll appropriately weigh your ball sacks.
That's in the pro version.
Does the guy take into account how much stuff is in it? Oh, man.
You're hurting my brain. But anyway, thank you two for joining us.
Not a problem.
Well, we know this is a big topic, so let's get started. A Realm Reborn is, of course, a massively multiplayer online role-playing game. And this, of course, can mean different things to different people. Some people completely ignore the massively multiplayer part and will just solo all day. And other people tend to ignore the role-playing part to some degree. And to understand those who fully embrace the role-playing part, we have questions. And we're going to start with the most obvious question, and it's just basically, what is role-playing?
Do you want to field this one first, or shall I? Okay, I guess I'll go first there. Hello? Hello, Medric?
Yep.
There we go. Alright. Luna, did you want to field this one, or do you want me to go first?
Just go ahead.
Alright. Role-playing. What is role-playing? To role-play is to take on the persona and characteristics of a character inside the lore of the game. For example, the characters that you meet through storylines are characters that are being role-played in a sense. But when you role-play is you create your own character and you put them into this world, into this setting, and watch them grow, watch them change, and immerse themselves in the culture and aspect of the game.
Cool. Luna, do you have a comment?
It also means that you're changing your own behavior, your own person behavior to match that persona that you're trying to put inside this virtual world.
So you basically you are your character, acting out how your character would be in that world.
Yeah, you're essentially acting out how you perceive your character to be instead of acting out of your own self person.
It's a completely different mindset. You have to think of it more from an actor's point of view rather than just a gamer's point of view.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's seeing the world as your character would see it instead of seeing it as the perspective of that puppet master pulling the strings behind.
exactly. You're not the player at that point. You're the person, the individual who's in that world, and they don't know that you're outside it, so to speak.
Okay. Very cool. So then, about role-playing events or sessions, do you schedule those, or do you just kind of stay in character from the minute you log in, or how do you guys handle that?
For me, it's really dependent on the group of people that you're RPing with. Some likes to be always in character. Some likes to have defined times for it. That would more be about the community that you're doing it with. If it's like widespread, your whole link shell or free company, I guess people would be RPing all the time. And there's other people that are just going to be RPing some of the time. So it really depends on the individuals.
Okay. So it depends how much they're into it or how they feel like playing it.
Yes, exactly. But there's not to say that there isn't scheduled events. Like some groups, or in this example, the Role-Playing Coalition website is a big hub for a lot of different shells that they use that to post up big communal events for people to gather at, like galas, balls, public outings, funerals. It's a place where you can post up larger events that you want more people to attend to, and you can also, with your link shell, schedule smaller events. But RP can happen anywhere at any time as long as you want it to happen, essentially.
So if I am, and I'm sorry to interject, but if I am just a single player, I don't have a link shell, I haven't been to this website or anything. I just happen to roll a character on the self-appointed, RP server, and I'm like, how do I even get started? Do I just say something in the say chat? I mean, how would one person just get started if usually there's link shells or something organized, or like oftentimes like D&D, for example, or pen and paper, people know each other and they happen to just get together and do it. But if I'm a lone individual who's kind of interested, then how would I get into it?
I think you just have to find some people that do and just ask them very casually. There is a lot of websites out there, a lot of communities that openly say they do RP because that's their thing, and they gather people from that. Or you could go on those websites and just say, hey, I'm looking to start, and go from there. Or if you happen to come across people RPing within the game, then just ask them politely, and I'm sure that they'll point you in the right direction.
That's usually the best way to do it. And there's also, if you're not sure if you want to RP yet, but you are incredibly interested, you can always ask if you can watch. And 90% of the time, most role players will be completely welcoming and also be like, well, if you have any questions during it, feel free to send us a tell and we'll explain them what we're doing. And it's all about generating the interest, so that way we can help people get interested into the role play.
So are role players pretty open and accepting and excited that someone new wants to try to do this, or are they very closed groups? They're pretty open and friendly, and they want you to come play with them.
Exactly. I mean, I wouldn't say 100% of role players, because I have yet to meet any role player that doesn't want to meet new people.
Okay.
We're not
intruding. What was that?
I have the same exact experience. Like, I've literally have yet to meet someone that is or wants to shut people out in any role-playing community.
I mean, obviously there'll be times where you will be role-playing and it'll be, I don't want to say private, because that can be misunderstood, but as an example, if you're off training in the woods in a rural spot, and it's somewhere where most people usually don't go, but obviously you can't because of the map constrictions. Mm-hmm. But if that's the case, you probably will tell the interested party, yes, you can watch, but please don't interact because of the blah 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 condition. And it's not to say that they don't want to roleplay with them, it's just the situation would not allow for it.
Okay, the scenario or whatever just doesn't have a room for that kind of thing.
Exactly. Or, yep. Well, since we didn't have housing in 1.0, people would be like off on the sides against a wall or something, and they'd be pretending that they're in a house.
Okay, yeah. Well, that actually, I'm going to jump way ahead because that really opens up I'm really curious how Final Fantasy XIV, what you've seen in the beta so far, what you know about the game. Does this really it really seems like it might cater well to role-playing play style. Yep.
It really does cater well, just because there's so much support for any bits of roleplay that you may want to do. I mean, just lately in the latest patch notes, they've added the fact that your character now moves in lip syncs just by you saying stuff in say chat. So
that sounds so cool. Yeah.
It's really cool, but it's just one little more detail about really immersing yourself into the game and really seeing those characters just not as soulless avatars, but as other whole persons. Because that's the kind of mindset that we put ourselves into when we RP, is that we're not puppet masters anymore. We are living in this world. We are seeing this world through each of the characters' eyes. So that's the same thing for the other person that's RPing in front of us. Therefore, I see them as their characters, and they see me as my character. And every detail that adds to that feeling and adds to that immersion is welcome, and Final Fantasy XIV has a lot of them.
You also have to be a little bit careful, too, to make sure, if I'm going to use this as an example. If, say, your character is a little bit brash or a little bit condescending, you have to sometimes take a moment and let the other players know that it's not something personal against them, the player. It's how things are panning out through the character.
Oh, don't take it personally because my character is kind of a jerk.
Exactly.
Right.
Something like that. Yeah, okay. Well, I just was noticing, when I was exploring, there's so many, hot springs area that looks like such a neat place just to go hang out, or the beach down by Limsa, and it might be, a fun place to do something. And that's just, casual hanging out kind of stuff. I'm sure, the housing is going to be really, really neat for role players.
It's ironic that you mentioned the beach, because in Phase 3 came up, the Role Playing Coalition held its first big event, and it was actually on the beach, and then we went to the hot springs afterwards.
I'm kind of curious. I'm just going to make a bold assumption, hoping that you've played other MMOs out there, but because our role-play servers are actually out there in other MMOs, and they actually label them as such. This is an RP server. As far as we know, 14 hasn't taken that stance yet, but you say that they're making these tiny details that add so much to a role player's experience. But in your opinion right now, which MMO has really lended itself to a role player and has really just made is 14 the top? Where does 14 rank in that kind of scheme?
I would probably, from my personal experience, I'd probably put it at about 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
There is more coming, so there'll always be more to improve the immersion. Number one, honestly, is going to be a really older game that a lot of people are just going to probably shake their heads when I mention it, but Ragnarok Online. If anyone remembers that game.
I do remember that game.
I do as well.
Okay, so you remember that it's a very simple interface.
Yes.
Very simple controls, but because of that, it lended itself a lot more to the imagination, so role players had a lot more to work with.
Exactly. I mean, in that sense, I would say that even if, for example, World of Warcraft had those RP servers that were labels as such, it was less of an RP game because the framework was very, very rigid.
But I mean, that seems kind of strange to me. I mean, because WoW has this really, really, really rich lore and so much going on to it. So, are you saying then that because of its rigid structure, that WoW isn't probably necessarily on your top of the list of an RP friendly MMO game?
Well, maybe it was just my experience, but like to me, the moments that I've passed into an RP server in WoW, I didn't find it that much different than any other normal servers. Like I've seen people RP on normal servers as well. I've seen RP guilds on normal servers and on the RP servers, and for me, I didn't really see any really big difference. People on RP servers were raiding, and they were raiding just like people would. They were really RPing while they were raiding. And as such, this is what I mean. I mean, the whole framework around the game, made the game what it was, and people were just playing for what it was, and then they were just RPing outside of it, just standing out in town basically and RPing there.
For WoW, I'm going to be honest, I've played maybe 15, 20 minutes of vanilla WoW, and that was my total experience. So I wouldn't know one way or the other, but there is a lot of in-depth history and lore in the World of Warcraft series and in the MMO. So I can imagine it might make it a little bit difficult or a little bit intimidating, but it all depends on the group that you're playing with and the levels and strengths of the RPers. So I'm going to voice this. I can't really judge WoW one way or the other on that. But my number 2 would probably be the Old Republic.
Oh, that was really useful, or really a good environment for roleplay.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was an amazing conductive environment for roleplay because they had different types of roleplay servers. They had the regular, strictly PvE, which is person versus environment RP, and the one that actually worked the best for the Old Republic was the role-playing PvP servers. Because remember, in the Old Republic, there's two sides. There's the Empire and there's the Republic. And you could actually have points where the two of them could interact and actually, like as an example, I played a bounty hunter. If I didn't like a Jedi, I could be like, okay, you're a Jedi. The Empire is collecting Jedi, so I'm going to take you in for a bounty. And they can refuse, and then we can fight, and I would win, and I would take them back.
Oh my gosh, that actually sounds really cool. I mean, yeah. I mean, honestly, I have role played on forums and a little bit in Ragnarok Online. I remember doing that because you can't help but get into the character. I mean, because they're cute little sprites, and people are playing all around you. It's like, okay, I'll join in. But that's kind of cool. I mean, now that I think about it, it's like, why didn't I do that? Because that could have been really fun. Like, maybe I'm gonna do this.
To me, it adds so much to the game because it's a whole new way to enjoy it. That's beside everything else. That just adds more flavor to everything that's out there.
I'm not usually huge on PvP, but if you can use it properly in roleplay, like not an abuse, like one horrible example of PvP, I hate to break it to the square, but Final Fantasy XI had horrible PvP. Horrible PvP.
It was kind of tacked on as an afterthought PvP, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
We'll be fair.
But like, if you can have contested duels, I'm not sure if we can do that yet or not. To be completely honest, I have not focused too much on the PvP in 14. But if we can do stuff like that, then you can use things like that for, say, if you're training people in a mercenary RP, or if you're passing down from student to teacher some certain techniques, or you have a rivalry with somebody, stuff like that, that would make great use of the PvP engine.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
I mean, it could be as simple as, this is my lake, you don't fish in it.
Exactly, and then have a fishing war. Because remember, gathering and crafting classes now attack with their tools, so you could have two people whip out their fishing rods and...
Oh my gosh, no, don't say anything.
I don't have to. You guys just printed the mental image for me.
Yes, too late. Too late. Okay, well, I think we have more questions. I think we want to know, what does a typical role-play session look like? I'm sure it's different for everyone, but how do you guys personally play day to day?
I've always have a little bit of RP that's ongoing whenever I play, and it's not that I'm completely RPing all the time, but I'll even have some slight hints of RP when I'm in the dungeon finder with complete strangers. I just target my response and how my character chat and how I behave myself, just in accordance to what the persona of my character is. It doesn't hurt anyone. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be walking all over the dungeon and never running, because that's just, painful.
Even then, most likely you'd be running through the dungeon anyways, because it's a dungeon. You're running. You don't want to get stuck behind everybody else.
But I mean, if people ask me questions, or if I'm saying stuff in party chat because I want to explain a fight or a strategy or whatever, it's just going to be flavored a bit with my character's trait. My character is a bit of a lunatic, and it shows in how I type the message out.
Oh, God, you're one of those.
No, I'm not one of those.
No, but you're one of those crazy people. It's like, God, they're so much fun to RP with. As for me, I typically bounce around between two different, I don't want to say styles, but placements for RP for my character. Nell actually runs her own store now, and it's a completely in-character / out-of-character store. What I do is I have 4 crafts currently at cap, and I've created an in-character store based around that, where basically I use my metal forging capabilities to make armor, weapons, jewelry, whatever people request. And it's done completely in character. And I have made promotional flyers and everything for it in character. Well, I've had a lot of help with them as well. But so I have my storefront managing roleplay, where people will come, they'll buy stuff from the store. And I've basically told people that, especially if you're a role player, all you need to do is either bring me the materials and tip whatever you feel is necessary, or just pay the money for the materials and tip whatever is necessary, and I'll make it for you. And if it's high quality, no extra charge unless you want to pay a tip more.
So this is actually one of my questions, and so I'm going to expand on it, because obviously it's different than pen and paper RPing, or definitely different than LARPing, or maybe definitely different than LARPing. But when you're in an MMO, right? Or I mean, you have actions that you can do via the emotes, or other actions that are doing, such as, I guess, if I were to give an exchange of goods and money to Nell, do I act it out? Do I write an emote action out? Do I just let the action speak for itself? I mean, how would you go about that? Or what if I wanted to go Halera decides to bite Nell's tail and I don't know, suck on it or something.
You could definitely do that if you wanted to, but I would highly recommend against biting Nell's tail. That would be a very, 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 very bad move. I can't stress that enough. As for the goods and services trading, that all boils down mostly to personal style.
Okay.
Like as an example, like if I was giving an item to somebody, I would typically say, I would hand them a bag, and when I did the trade, I would basically be like, okay, I hand you a bag, and the trade consists of what's in the bag. But there are some people there that will actually list out what's in the bag when they say it. There'll be some people that will be like, oh yeah, just give me a second, and then they bring up the trade menu. It all varies depending on personal style, and no one style is correct. It's all a matter of personal preference.
It's just a matter of how much or how deep you want to get into it. Some of the systems are fine as is for most people. Like, for example, if you want to greet someone, you can just, slash wave, and that'll be the end of it. Or you could, write a whole description of how you actually waved and detail how each finger moved during that special waving that you do.
So do people actually do that? Not necessarily in chat, but as they'll do /em. I can't remember what it is for non-emote, and then have it out so that Nell Celestine is waving each hand in the air and blah 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 blah, and does some magic glittery attack or something. Sorry.
Some people do it.
Okay.
I've seen some people do it. It depends on I guess community, being overboard like that, it's really not common.
Yeah, going above and beyond is usually not common, but it's not frowned on. But stuff like typically waving, yeah, people tend to rely on the emotes, but sometimes instead of going /goodbye, Nell will be /em gives two-fingered salute and walks off, or /em gives a slight wave from behind or something. But it's not typically something that is a standard. It's more so what fits the situation in your mind for the character.
It's most of the characters that people, RP that have been doing RP for a bit, they're relatable. They're characters that make sense in this world. They're not fabulous drama queens of awesome emotes everywhere. It's really it's down to earth. It's all they're all characters that you can relate to. No, it's all normal characters that you would expect would live in this world that have trials and tribulations, have hard days, good days, and bad days, and it's pretty normal actually.
I'd like to dispute that because I've known at least 2 drama queens.
We've all known 1 or 2.
So I'm kind of curious, and I'm sorry I keep just butting in, but do you for certain emotes, if it's a trait of your character, do you have it macroed, or are you just able to just quickly type it out or something?
It depends mostly on how much text is required for that. When Nell gets agitated, her right ear twitches. Mm-hmm. And it's very easy for me to just go /em's right ear twitches instead of having to macro it. But stuff I don't know, say you have this whole thing where your character has to announce their attack or something, chances are you're going to put that into a macro with the weapon skill.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Stuff that requires a lot of time to put in and needs to be done in quick situations, you'll probably macro, but for shorter things in our general topic, it's a conversation, it doesn't really matter that much.
Right, and the other thing is that if it's really something that your character does often, you get used to typing it and it becomes second nature at some point.
Okay. Now, I'm kind of curious. Do you call out every single attack?
No,
No.
no,
Okay,
no.
okay.
I mean, sometimes people will do that, and it's usually you can tell that it's a bit over the top. But if it fits the character, it fits the character.
Yeah, okay. That's understandable.
And for me, I don't do it because it's just like I don't like the spam every 2.5 seconds.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
true, but yeah, back then in 1.0, it used to take a lot longer. But
Like when you met someone that goes, "I'm hitting heavy swing every time," he actually writes it, every time.
or don't forget the Papa S11 Super Boost macro.
Oh my god!
Oh
No, I
my
was just gonna
gosh,
bring
no.
that up. People who use save in their macros should be shot.
Right, like those are extremes, and we remember them because they are such extremes. But I mean, the vast majority of people are not that overboard.
Nobody remembers my group hug when I did protect, so.
Aww.
Alright, well, I'm going to combine a couple of questions we had here. Both, how do you log what goes on, in all of your game, or, all of your playtime and whatever? And then, do you also do stuff outside of the game to carry on your stories, or do you just pretty much stay in-game for your interactions?
I'll let you field this one first, Luna.
For me, it's depends on the phase. Basically, like right now, my character is not made because I'm going to make it tomorrow morning. Therefore, I have created a backstory for it. How it came to Eorzea, where does she live, how she born, what does she do for a living at the moment, and why she hates it and wants to sign up for the Arcanist Guild and change her life around, basically. That brings us to the point where I actually step in the game, and then from then on, the stories carries through actions and through how I'm going to interact and who I'm going to meet with within the game. And from then, I mean, sometimes I'll just play it by ear, and sometimes I'll encounter some funny stories that I want to remember, and I'll just write some form of blog post about it, just so that I have a little story that writes itself for memories.
Yeah, basically a lot of us from 1.0 that were role-playing, at least on the Balmung server, would typically have 2 or 3 different things to do if we wanted to keep something around. The most common was people would keep journals, and there's at least 2 people I know with journals that span well over 200 to 300 pages.
Wow.
Whoa.
One person in particular I know, actually, when they were RPing, would try to write a journal post every day or 2 based on their character interactions.
Wow. Jeez, wow.
One thing that I've done for the backstory that I wrote for Luna before we actually get into this next phase is that since many different people are going to interact with Luna and are going to know different sides of her, I wanted my backstory to reflect that, so I wrote it in a way that it's a choose-your-adventure deal where you actually pick answers for... Because I've put, you, the reader, the story inside the backstory to get you, touching base a bit with RPing. And you get to pick some answers, and it brings you to different parts of the backstory until you actually get to the point where the game begins.
Oh my god, as someone who loved choose-your-own-adventure books, her entire
Those
childhood.
were the best.
I know,
That
those
sounds
were
like
awesome.
So much fun. Oh my
So yeah, if reading my backstory, you get to choose your own adventure.
That's kind of awesome. I imagine that took a lot of work.
Yeah.
It took well, not really, but yeah, sort of took a day about. Because I knew the story in my head, I just had to put it in paper and then, mix and match the pieces, so.
The other thing that a lot of role players, at least the ones I know, do is we also have an entire Wikipedia section, and each person can edit and update their own Wikipedia pages with stuff like how tall your character is, their basic personality, some of their history, major characters that they know, and obviously it's all what's considered out-of-character information, but it's a nice place to go, okay, well, here's a rough idea of what my character is like. This is a rough idea what this character is like. This is a rough idea what that character is like. So if you're looking for ideas or inspiration, or if you're looking for people that are like-minded to you, you can take a brief look at them there and go like, oh, well, this character seems interesting. I'd like to get to know this person. And then you can be like, okay, well, you're the player of this character. I'm interested in meeting you. This is what my character's like. Let's see if we can set up a chance to encounter one another.
Well, and that brings up an interesting point. How do you handle information you know that your character doesn't know? I know playing like, I used to play like D&D and stuff, and it's like, well, your character wouldn't know that, so you can't do that. How do you guys handle that?
I mean, for me, I will go to my own death if my character is not aware of it, unless it actually impacts other players that are not into RPing.
Yeah, it's pretty much if it's not going to affect if it's going to affect people around you that in a non-character way, then you can act on it, but otherwise it's pretty much you don't act on out-of-character information at all. It's pretty much it's pretty much a standard rule that it's incredibly frowned upon by the entire community.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Yalta.
I was just gonna bring up troublemakers. Are there some people who are like troublemakers and like get in the way of that, or are you guys in general pretty nice?
Yeah, from the other character and character perspective, it's generally everybody's really nice, and I mean occasionally you'll have the occasional slip, but it's usually nothing that big, and it's quickly rectified when you go, oh crap, no, no, I'm not supposed to know that. I'm so sorry. Let's take that back.
Like gloss it over, move on quickly.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I've got to say there are troublemakers outside of that.
We're going to get to that one later.
But the funny part is that sometimes the reverse situation happens where your character knows something because it's in this character, and you as a player don't, and then you learn from that. And that's like when that happens, it's really amazing.
So
I guess I could give you an example of that if you don't really catch what I'm saying.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like the first time I went to Halatali, I was in a group and we were, doing the dungeon. Everything was fine until we hit that dragon bust, one with the, the purpley lightning things.
Mm-hmm.
And so my character really does not like water at all, and does everything she can to avoid stepping in it. And so I kept telling my party that water is bad because it's, part of my character. And up until the point where everyone was, dying in the water because of the lightning pulses.
Oh, yeah.
And then, when they started listening to my character saying water's bad, they were actually stepping out of the water, and we were like, oh, we're not dying anymore. Funny how that works.
Very nice. Very nice.
So I'm kind of wondering, do you frequently, I mean, knowing that the community is pretty, it's a general rule of thumb, but do you often find slips of, people just taking that out of character information and putting it in, or is it just usually just a slip? And does it just happen frequently or just kind of infrequently?
It's very, very rare, I've seen, and even when it does happen, it's usually quickly remedied.
Uh-huh.
It's something that a lot of role players pride themselves on not letting happen. And I guess the best way to say it is, nobody really... people don't do it because they don't want it to happen to them.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's kind of like a golden rule. Like you don't want someone to come along and spoil your entire plot or storyline just because they read part of it on your wiki. So you don't want to really do that to someone else either.
That
Yeah,
makes
that's
sense.
understandable.
If there was achievement for RP, this one would be at the top, like, didn't slip since 1984.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. Reading my questions, we've jumped around. So we're going to go to currently the role-playing community is divided into 2 servers. How is that going to work out? One is a legacy server, and another is a brand new server. Why is the community that's already a minority, and now you're segregating yourself further? What tips do you have for new players seeking out to find a roleplay server? Yeah, so
I can't say for all role players, but the Role Playing Coalition, which is a major hub for the role playing community from 1.0, we all voted back before launch to make Besaid the unofficial roleplay server. And for the most part, the group stuck around, except for I think there was one small group of players decided to go off and make their own on a different server. Unfortunately, that group didn't survive very long, but given the state of the game, it's not really an issue. They probably left because of the game mechanics.
yeah.
So now we got 2.0 coming up, and the major issue that started all this was there was a lot of, and I know people on the forums have different opinions now, but when it originally started up, there was a lot of carried over from the beta forums of the whole legacy players are evil, legacy players have all 50s, legacy players will ruin the economy. It took a long time, and I actually compiled an entire video of points for both the legacy server and the non-legacy server reasons for playing on, if people want to check it out on my channel.
Go ahead and tell us.
But basically it boils down to the people on Gilgamesh, that's the non-role-playing server, wanted to create their own community with a fresh face, so to speak, that they didn't want to try to integrate into an already established group because they were worried that they might not fit in, or they didn't want to be part of the status norm, so to speak.
Oh, okay.
Now, that's not to say that's a bad thing. It's kind of like people choosing to either live in New York or move to the Wild West. And some people moving to the Wild West and creating a new community is much more exciting.
Yeah.
It's the same issue that any other player faced when deciding going to a legacy server or not. It doesn't change because there's an RP community or not. And as such, have people with the opinion that the legacy servers is a better choice and people that the new server is a better choice, and both are correct depending on the specific person, and that doesn't change for RPing or not.
The only issue
it comes down to the same issue for everyone, personal preference.
Yep.
The only major issue that I can see with Gilgamesh is the fact that because of the Balmung server being a legacy server, there's a large established community there already, so the community there can afford to be a little bit more passive with the roleplay. But with a smaller community and on a brand new fresh start server, they're going to have to be a lot more proactive in their roleplay.
That is true.
How do you mean
Yeah, go ahead. That was the same question I was going to ask. What do you mean by proactive?
So how do you mean?
Well, it's like, for example, if your server is a big glass of water and your RP community is a little bit touch of red grenadine in the bottom of it, if you don't put more of it or make sure that it's there as you drink water and put more water in, and you drink some more water and put more water in, it just waters it down.
Diluted. I see what you mean. All right.
So
What are the... Oh, sorry, finish.
So you have to, as an example, in this case, instead of adding more water, you need to add more grenadine to that mix. You have to produce more role-playing groups. You have to generate more interest in the community, but you have to do it in a way that doesn't affect other players on other servers. You need to essentially create more events, get more public gatherings, and sometimes role players aren't role playing out in the open because they don't want to be griefed by non-role players. But unfortunately, Gilgamesh is going to have to not avoid that, but pretty much accept that it's going to happen if they want to get their community off the ground. They're going to have to be role playing out in the open a lot more. And that's the only way that they're going to be able to get that server up and running, so to speak.
Well, at some point, there's got to be a point where there's just not enough people to do it. So they're going to have enough people where there's enough people to do it where it's fun.
That's
Exactly.
the whole reason for them to say, come to Gilgamesh if you want to RP.
Okay. Well, what server are you two going to? I'm curious.
Well, I'm a legacy player, so I will be on Balmung, as was originally on the 1.0 and with the original plan for the relaunch.
Okay.
I am not a legacy player, but I do have a 1.0 character, and I am tossing it down the drain and making a new one on a new server.
Very cool.
And I am going to Leviathan, or however you pronounce this.
Yep, yeah. It's Leviathan. Would it just make your guys' lives much easier if they would just pick a couple of servers and say these are the official role-playing servers?
We have been asking for that for over a year.
I know, I just can't understand it.
For me, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I'm going to Leviathan. I'm not going to any of the unofficial RP servers. Doesn't mean I'm not going to RP. It doesn't mean that I don't have my backstory for people who want to know it, or interact me in a way that is for I guess correct for RPing, or that's not the right word, but whatever. For me, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to do my own thing, and
you're going to do your own thing, and it doesn't matter what your server you chose. You're doing your own thing. That's cool.
Right.
Very cool.
I agree with that you should be able to do your own thing. The only reason I would want an official roleplay server is because Yoshida-san has basically said that he is a role player as well, and he wanted to designate a server, and so that's why we've been kind of harassing him to get one picked. But with the fact that the launch is going to be starting in a little over a week, it's not looking that great.
Yeah, they would have really had to have picked one at the time they let us transfer servers. That would have been like the prime time to do it.
For me, the server choice boils down to where my friends are, and that's more important than the RP community, even if I'm an RPer, because A, I don't RP all of the time, and B, if I do it, I do it with strangers and friends alike, and the most important, like the top of my list in order of importance is playing with my friends, and based on that, I'm going to go with the servers that they choose. And not all of my friends are RPers, and some of them hates it, and they absolutely don't want to go to an RP server. And it's it boils down to personal choice.
I definitely support go where your friends are going. All right, well, let's move on. Let's talk lore. How important is the game's lore to a role player? And do you need to know every little detail of every piece of official lore put out there, or can you get by without it?
Let's put it this way. I've gotten by without knowing everything in the game so far. I mean, it helps, but it's not like a book that you must be clubbed over the head and pass an exam on.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know what Limsa Lamenta is, right?
Yeah.
You know what the Adventure Guild is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what Rogadins are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need
You're good to go.
you know everything you need to know to be able to go through my backstory and say I know what this person is talking about.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, you don't need to know the origins of Rogan and surnames in order to play one. You don't need to know every detail about how the city of Limpsa was founded in order to play there. You don't need to know all the little details. They're interesting and they can add another level of play to your roleplay, but they're not requirements.
Okay.
So if another player starts spouting off something like, Van Darnest actually wears pink lacy panties, and it said so in I don't know, some weird cutscene way back when, you could be like, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I would honestly be impressed. I mean,
Yep.
there's some stuff in the lore that I
Mhm.
didn't even know was around until after the game had gone down.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah. There's a lot of those Fern Wallace posts really brought a lot of that stuff to light.
Like the fact that the little girl in the first 10 levels of main storyline in Olda is the Menfina or whatever. However,
It's actually meant. What's her name at the?
at the Path of the 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd heard that rumor before. I wasn't sure about it.
It's not a
Yeah.
rumor. It's been confirmed. Fern
It was
Wallace
so
confirmed
hard.
it on the forums.
Yes, he does.
It was so hard to know in the first part of the time around of the game what was an echo, and it's gonna be more obvious now, so we won't be making those mistakes.
Oh, thank goodness for that.
Well, here's something I'm really curious about too. Your playstyles. How can hardcore endgame kind of activities coincide well with role playing, or do you have to choose one or the other?
It depends on who you run with. And obviously, the harder the content, the less likely you're going to roleplay it, especially if there's timers involved.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, as content gets easier over time, and, like, the people are able to clear it with, without even trying, like, the easier the content gets, the easier it is to roleplay the said content. But, obviously, endgame is endgame for a reason. It's supposed to really tax a player, not so much tax a role player.
Okay. You're not crying that you have an hour and a half to get through a dungeon that takes 20 minutes?
No, I don't cry about that. I mean,
That was a big topic. It was like, we don't have enough time to roleplay in the dungeon. I'm like, you're there to kill stuff and leave. Even if you're roleplaying, I think you're killing stuff and leaving.
But
Yeah.
sometimes it's fun to be able to roleplay them. Like if you have a group of 4 people that want to roleplay, going in a dungeon, and then taking that whole hour and a half to clear a dungeon, and quotation RP walking the whole time because you play carefully because it's a dangerous place. I mean, it could be lots of fun. I mean,
oh, totally.
it could be a lot of amazing fun, like you wouldn't even imagine. But it's just the fact that now we do have the time to be able to do such a thing. It's awesome. It doesn't mean that you'll do it every time. It means that you'll probably do it one time and laugh about it, and then it'll be good memories, and then you won't do it again. But just the fact that you can do it, just the fact that you can do it is nice.
The only dungeons I can't see us role-playing in yet are going to be stuff like the Tower of Bahamut, or the Labyrinth of Bahamut, and the Crystal Tower, just because apparently those are supposed to be incredibly difficult. So I can't see those being RP'd yet.
But even if you can't really RP in them because you're very, very taxed as a player, it doesn't mean that you won't see them as part of your character's story or part of your own personal lore, if you would.
It's true. That's very true. It's just if it depends on the ability that you want to put into the story rather than what the game is taking out of you. So, like, if you want to roleplay in the dungeon, there's no one that's going to be able to stop you. But you also have to make sure that you're considerate to the other players that are there. And 9 out of 10 times, if you're going in there to role play, you're going in there with a bunch of other role players anyway.
Yeah.
And 2, if you're there for role play, you're there for role play. Or if you're there for clearing, chances are you're there for clearing, and the role play is a secondary effect.
Yep. Well, something like Hawk Manor seems like a really cool place to go do some role play.
Oh,
but there seems
ever.
But there seems like there's enough time in there to do, like you say, you're not there to do a speed run and role play. You're kind of there. Your goal might be slightly different than someone who's just there for the loot.
Exactly.
You'll use your time differently.
Because, like, the actual goal when you role play is to have fun. So it doesn't matter if you don't, complete the objective, because the objective is itself accomplished because you're role playing there and you're having fun doing it.
I'm kind of curious. So if you do a dungeon again and again and again, how would you role play that out? Like, why would you say, like, I'm going there because of this? And I mean, how would that kind of story pan out? Because I've always been curious about that. Like, how would they handle something like that?
What's the role-playing equivalent to going back to Garuda 10 times to get a weapon?
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, there's a very good one for the Garuda fight and the Frit fight and all that. In 1.0, they mentioned that the primals don't die; they just get weakened from the manifestation. Mm-hmm. So what ended up happening, or at least what I ended up doing, was we would need to take bouts to keep Ifrit in check from manifesting in the physical world, or trying to go back and stop Garuda from continuing her rampage because she had enough energy to manifest. Because remember, you went into the Bowl of Embers for Ifrit because he wasn't around, but Garuda actually did manifest in the game.
Yeah. Yep.
For me, sometimes if it fits, it fits, like for the primal fights, but for some dungeons, if I'm doing an RP run of a dungeon, that'll be the one that, kind of counts for the story, and the other one, I would just want RP and just pretend they don't happen.
Yeah, you can't kill coin counter 1,000 times. It doesn't really work. The primals does have a really good a story.
I mean, when it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. Sometimes you can find absurd reasons to make them fit. An example of that would be like Hawk Manor. It could be that your character have a recursive bad dream that happens, most nights, and then until you actually clear it enough time that it goes away. But
or you could even say the fact that since Hawk Manor is filled with a lot of demons and undead, that they're not ever truly purged.
Yeah, that's
true. You can anything you can imagine, you can explain, and it doesn't really matter.
Okay, so Yelta mentioned coin counter, and I'm kind of curious because what if I went in with 4 friends, but then Yelta didn't go with me, and it would be Yelta's first time. But then I went in, and she's RPing with me, and then I already RP'd with my other friends, and now Yelta's there, and I want to RP with her, and so we're going in, and now I'm seeing coin counter again. Do I just be like, how would you react to that? I mean, to me, it'd be like, okay, why didn't you die?
You could always have it either being like something like another monster of the same species if you really needed to, or you could say that you didn't actually kill it, but you managed to injure it severely to the point where you thought it was dead and it managed to recover over time, because, I mean, healing magic exists.
Yeah.
There's several different ways that you can play that off.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
As long as you find something, and that something can be explained.
All right.
It's an example, though. You Darnus, one fight. That's it. Done. Can't fight him again, no matter what, because, well, those of us who saw him and played 1.0's battle scene against him, there was no second fight. There was no second fight.
And so is that like an unspoken rule in the RP community that if it's particular fights such as that, or say for the storyline missions, if there is an encounter where you can include other people, do you say you can only count it as once? You can't go into your journal or your wiki history and say, I fought him 10 times and look at me now.
Generally, I find, I don't know about everybody, but generally I find that a lot of role players generally don't role play the main storyline.
Uh-huh.
Just because of that whole potential for inconsistency amongst players.
Okay.
There's some role players that'll do something similar or use the event for other things. Like I remember one group used the Darkness fight as a representation for another villain that their Link Shell was battling against. But basically, the main storyline seems to be canon for the player, not your character, from the majority of people that I've spoken with on that one.
Okay. So from there, you're you're making, a separation between player and character. Okay.
It would just be awkward at some point. You met someone new and say, like, you exchange your stories and your background and you talk with them. You're like, you fought him too? I thought I killed him. It would just be some kind of weird.
It would be a little awkward.
Like, man.
I mean, some things you can pull from there, like the Path of the 12.
Yeah.
Like the group that Malefa, I'm going to butcher her name this entire podcast.
Minfilia.
Thank you.
Minfilia, yeah.
She runs the Path of the 12, and there's hundreds of members underneath her. So you could technically be a member of that group because the character in the main storyline becomes a member. But you can't be like, oh, well, I'm the member who went and did this, this, and this.
Oh, okay. So like how the story would sometimes paint it where you yourself as a player is the only person doing it, despite everyone else around you having done it as well. You're in your head, you're like, you're just thinking about it as your player, not your character.
Yeah,
right. Like a general rule of thumb would be like you can pick anything from the main storyline that can relate to other players if it permits you to not be in a special Snowflake scenario.
Oh, okay.
Yay, so, special Snowflake.
Special Snowflake scenario. I like it.
I'm kind of curious because there's some people who like playing bad guys, and so I would like to one day cook Yelta in a stew. But
poor Yelta. At least add some seasoning.
There's even a recipe.
Well, I do. I have wine. There's going to be wine and some other stuff. But so I want to cook Yelta in a stew, right? And so maybe like we're going to role play a story where we're very like, antagonistic toward each other. But if I want to be in the same link shell with her or the same free company, I mean, I don't know. Could I? Should I? I mean, or...
It's very possible.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like, obviously, to a point, I mean, if you're in-characterly, openly hostile to members of the company, obviously they're going to find a way to remove you from the company so you don't have access to their pearls, so you can't listen to their plans and blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, like, if you're, I don't like you, you don't like me, rah, 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 we fight, but as a whole unit, you get along kind of thing, like, you for the betterment of the group, so to speak, then there's really no problem being in the same group. I mean, there's also the whole thing of I want to create a villain character, and villain characters are great because you can't rely on the game to create villains for you all the time. So you can create villain characters. You can give them ways to communicate, like have them steal somebody's link shell or what have you. But it's all depends on the players involved, the scenario you want to write, and the level of communication you want to have between yourself and the others involved.
Okay.
I mean, you can't really cook her and up until the point she dies. So there would be some kind of miraculous or unfortunate escape, depending on the side that you're on, I guess. But and at the same time, if you're really so antagonist to someone, why would they be in the same group as you? You can play it out, but you could also exile them from the link shelf for a moment, for the moment that you're antagonist with them.
I mean, unless you want your character to be killed by cooked in a stew. I mean,
not so
right.
much.
Well, okay. Can I take a nibble of her legs? Because
Nibbling's allowed.
But, like, I mean, at that point, it's only a matter of, like, what's the scenario you have in mind and how do you want it to play out and acting accordingly to that. I mean, if you think about it, two people that hate each other and want to get each other out probably wouldn't associate.
yeah.
Anyway.
But
okay.
what if you're friends in out of character? I mean, because then I wouldn't want to be. I would want to play a villain character, but I also really would like to hang out with my friends. So I guess that would kind of suck. You'd have to work something out, I guess, in advance.
It's kind of a tough thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember in a previous game, I was me and one of my friends were very, very close in real life, and we played in two different guilds, and our characters hated each other. And it was really fun to act out because I lash at him anytime I wanted to, and have a beer with him afterwards. It was awesome. It was really awesome. But I mean, and up to a point where the stories of these two characters involve hating each other, but like they were like constantly thrown at each other every time, and we played the character went from hatred to not trusting each other to make makeshift alliances to starting to become friends to being friends and making a guild together. So the whole evolution process was a really amazing thing. Even if it was all played from us from behind the scenes, and we could see where the story was going, but just acting it out was the major fun out of it.
To the point where they fell in love with the same girl, then they ended up having that girl kidnapped, they had to fight their way to go get her back, and then she made them fight each other to see which one would be the one that she dates.
Oh man, that's awesome.
No, that didn't happen, sadly.
Oh no.
Obviously you didn't play Double Dragon.
Right.
Well, all of this sounds like a ton of fun, but not everyone gets it. So there are a lot of people out there who just have a strange hate of role players. How do you handle them? Specifically, on the internet, on the forums or whatever. What if they show up and actually are jumping on the table while you're trying to role play around it?
Don't feed the trolls.
Pretty much. I mean,
pretty much,
someone will jump on the table. How many times or how long will he jump on the table if ignored?
Okay, so it's like any other bullying situation. You just don't feed them.
Pretty much, and if they get really bad, you either blocklist them, report them, or both.
Okay.
I mean
harassment's harassment, regardless of reason.
Yeah, and the other thing is they are in this game to play it or annoy people, and if the people that they're trying to annoy, they're just going to move around and annoy some other people that might display their annoyment with them.
Okay. Well, what if I don't know what you're doing and you're over there doing a role-playing thing and I wander by? What should I keep in mind?
Be a little bit polite, obviously. If you're not really sure what's going on and you are interested, the best and simplest way is to send someone a quick, private message. Just be like, hey, what are you doing? It seems kind of interesting. That's probably the most courteous way to go about it. Other than that, observe, or if you feel confident enough, jump in.
All right. I'm assuming if it's happening at the Adventurers Guild, the role players in question are probably used to someone coming up and saying, what's going on?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're having an RP session in the Adventurers Guild, sitting at the table and RPing in say chat or even shout, then like you're asking for it, whatever it is that you bring your way, hate or interest or both, and sometimes it's a great thing because it's also sometimes it's fun to deal with. Obviously, the guy jumping on the table you just ignore, but sometimes more people come in and join, and it creates a lot of amazing interactions. And so yeah, I mean, if you wonder and happen to stumble upon an RP session, either ignore it or ask them about it and maybe join in.
All right, so let's say I find all of this really intriguing and I'd like to try it sometime. What resources are out there that I could prepare myself to get involved?
Well, there's a lot of just general role-play information out on there on Google, but I'm going to pitch out the Role-Playing Coalition website. It is probably, in my opinion, one of the best sites for if you want to start being a role player. You don't have to obviously pick the servers that we pretty much support, but we have a lot of helpful information. We have a basic role player's handbook, which will go over everything from creating your character to helping you with a personality to fleshing out your backgrounds. And it's not this is something you have to do, but more of a, here are some suggestions, this is how this works. Obviously, if you have further questions, you can always ask other people here. So if you are interested, it's ffxiv-roleplayers.com.
Shout out to Eva for putting the handbook.
Oh my God, she put so much work into that. She really did put a lot of work into that.
Oh, it's just RP handbook over here on the right side, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Very cool. I'll have to check that out. All right. Well, is there anything either one of you would like to cover? This is your time to speak up.
I mean, if you haven't tried it, I think you should try it or give it a try. If you don't straight up hate it, even if you do give it a try, because it's really far from the the stereotype of people speaking in thou art not my son, broken old English. It's not about slowly walking everywhere. It's really about experiencing the game through your character's eyes, about acting on that persona and stopping being the puppet master but living through that puppet. It's about enjoying the journey and the memories and not just getting to the end as fast as you can. It has a lot more substance to everything in the game. It also makes you able to experience more of it maybe at a slower pace or at a different speed, if you would, than the usual rush to the end. And it overall it gives a richer experience across the board. And if you look at games that are older, I guess, if you're in it for the long run, usually the RP community is going to be one that is the strongest and friendliest you would encounter. That would also last a lot longer throughout the life of the game.
That's one of the things I was going to mention too, was the fact that if you look at any role-playing game, especially MMOs, the role-playing community is the community that will usually be the ones that stick around the longest, the ones that'll stick around regardless. That, in a sense, I guess you could say the role players are the hardest of the hardcore when it comes to a player base for a game. You have the hardcore endgamers, which will clear content and then just pretty much meh and disappear for a while.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
But the role players are there every day. They're logging in every day because every day to them is a brand new experience.
Very cool. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. This was very interesting. I'm going to have to check out the ffxiv-roleplayers.com myself. All right. Well, I think that's about enough for one day. It is closing time. You can check out the main site at zantazuken.net. The podcast can be found at sequencebreak.com. The Twitter account is SBXIV. You can email us at podcast@zantazuken.net. All right, it's time for plugs. We'll let the guests go first. Anything you want to plug?
Go ahead, Nell.
All right. Well, as some of you know, I'm Nell Celestine. Over on YouTube, you can find me by searching either Nell Celestine, Good Morning Eorzea, or putting in the channel name of Xeris. That's spelled Xeres. You could also check out ffxiv-roleplayers.com for any of your role-playing needs for Final Fantasy XIV. And you could also follow me on Twitter at Nell Celestine.
All right, Luna?
I just want to give a shout out to my link shell at erals.guildwork.com. They're an awesome bunch of people.
Cool. Rubicon?
You can find me on Twitter at RubiconVale, RubiconVale.
Calera.
You can find me at Twitter at Calera. You can also check out my blog at calera.me, as in M-E, not calera.calera, because that'd be kind of crazy. That would be, but I mean, it would be cool. But
I actually would love that kind of site. Calera.calera. Let's do that. Can we do that?
No, I don't think we can. You can also check out our forum, which is on forum.zantensuken.net. We are asking anyone who's interested or heading toward Excalibur to join our link shield, aptly called Derp Squad. And derp. Or you can, if you're interested, and I know this is not the correct show, but Highland Live, that is a roundtable discussion show that we're hosting. So if you're interested in participating in that, or even guesting for this show, go hit us up on that forum and post there and let us know what you're interested in, topics you want to talk about, or just pitch in and just discuss topics for future episodes. And we would love to have people on the show. I'm sure later on there will be stories from our guests saying, "Wow, that was a horrible experience," but
scarred for life.
I don't mind being scarred for life. Can I come on?
I'm gonna do things to now.
Wow.
Okay, Orphan, you have anything to plug?
You can find me on Twitter at Orphan, OROPHEN. I'm also going to be starting a brand new site pretty soon. Orphan.orphan. For all things orphan. All things orphan, you guys. I mean, if you want to know about my bra size, you want to know like my favorite foods, it's all going to be there. Orphan.orphan. For all things orphan.com.net org. Slash.
All right.
Ballsack.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my god, that was awesome. Alright, you can follow me on Twitter at Yelta Sumasu. You can check out the blog at sumasusisters.blogspot.com. I think that's it, guys. I think we've wrecked the internet. Let's say bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.